Welcome back to another episode of Westerospective, where we bring you Game of Thrones, the old seasons, and the new. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And this is our show where we are going back to the original seasons of Game of Thrones, knowing what we know now after all 6 seasons. So you have been warned for spoilers. Please be up to date before you check out this show. This is a look back to Season 2, Episode 3, titled What is Dead May Never Die. One of the most badass lines Martin ever came up with, in my opinion. And the episode opens up back at Craster's Keep, continuing where Snow got knocked out cold by Craster. And he's taken back to the Night's Watchman, basically telling him, he goes up to Mormont, basically telling him, you're going to pay for this type of thing. Get the hell out, right?
Yeah, pretty much. He tells Snow to wait outside, and then Mormont goes up to Snow and it's just like, what the hell have you done? And then he goes to tell him that they're killing the sons, and Mormont shows no change in expression, and Jon Snow is like, you already know. And then you have that very dark conversation.
It's pretty much one of the first times that Snow, I think, has a moment where he starts to understand that
necessary
Mormont,
evil.
It's a shitty thing he's letting happen, but it's a world where not everything can happen perfectly all the time. Like, you have to make a deal with the devil every now and then. Yeah. And if they don't, work with Craster, they have nowhere to go out there.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's not a very forgiving landscape that they're in. So
yeah, and it probably goes to help Snow in the long term, because there's plenty of times over the course of the next few seasons where Snow has moments like that where he has to make those tough decisions. Not everything you end up having to do is something you'd like to do. But
yeah.
Man, I'm not looking forward to fucking Mormont going, dude. He's such a cool character.
I know. I've been missing him ever since Burn Gorman started drinking wine out of his skull.
Burn Gorman's fucking amazing in this show.
I cannot wait for him to pop back in.
Is he this season or season 3?
They all blur together. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
close.
I'm looking forward to getting his character, though. The next scene, they transition to Winterfell with another warging scene. And then they have a really, really cool conversation where Bran wakes up from the visions and he's having a conversation with Maester Luwin. And then Maester Luwin, is a really, really smart guy, but he's dead wrong in basically everything he tells him.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's just like, the dragons are gone, the giants are gone, warging's horse shit. Bran, quit being a child.
Are you paraphrasing? Because I don't remember it exactly that way.
I should write cliff notes.
My notes have something different.
What was interesting, though, is the only note I really put down is he actually mentions the children of the forest.
Yes, that was the note I put down. Yeah, that was the first time.
I was like, holy shit, that was a deep cut. Like, that's...
Yeah. As soon as he said that, I was just like, wow, I did not remember getting a reference to them that soon. Probably because it meant fucking nothing until season 6.
It's just fucking Game of Thrones jargon.
Yeah.
Which is nothing but Game of Thrones is just pure jargon all the time. I thought that was really cool, though, how they had a reference that early. Did you have any other notes with this scene?
Nope, not with that scene. I just had the Children of the Forest reference.
Next up, we get our introduction to Brienne and Marjorie.
Yes.
Brienne is fighting Loras in a little kind of gladiator type fight they're having in front of Renly and Marjorie, which ends up being one of the most important scenes of the show, just with all the moving parts that end up coming out of that, because this is your introduction to Brienne arriving when she does, and she gets made a member of the, I guess, what they would call their Kingsguard type of thing.
It's funny how much more uptight she is the first time you meet her compared to now.
Yeah. She is really like that until Jaime, right? It's really all the stuff with Jaime that makes her open up.
And Jaime is the way he is until her. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how those two evolve together later.
Catelyn arrives to speak to Renly. Now, at this point, I forget, are they trying to broker a truce between Renly and Robb? Are they trying to kind of team up?
They're trying to team up, yeah. It's not a truce because I don't think they're fighting each other, but they have a common enemy, the way it's seen, because Renly wants the throne. In his mind, it's his rightful birthright, even though Stannis is older than him. And then Robb is fighting the Lannisters, and it's a Lannister on the throne, more or less. So.
Oh yeah, I think I remember them talking about how they needed to in order to attack King's Landing, they needed all the numbers they could get. So
yeah, because Renly has like 100,000 strong or something.
Yeah, Renly has probably the biggest force at the moment.
Yeah, Stannis has nowhere near that at the moment, and Robb doesn't. Everything he's been doing strategy.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't think I had any more notes for that one other than
I did love the line, and I wrote it down. Well, at least part of it to help me remember it. When Cat put Lawrence in his place and said, "My son is fighting a war, not playing at one."
Yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah,
that's the only thing I had written down besides Brienne of Tarth !
Yeah, I think I had Brienne ! Brienne's fucking awesome. I love Brienne.
I love Brienne.
The next scene they go to is a scene between Theon and Yara, which is Yara has a really cool quote too, where he's talking to her about how, like, why the fuck did you let me do all of that? And then she tells him, she was just like, I wanted to see who you were, and I did.
But which basically means, who the fuck would do all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that whole scene is it's kind of crazy because the way it sets up, it eventually gets turned on its head because, the whole time they are just looking down their nose at Theon, and then he feels insulted to his face when she gets 30 ships and he gets one, and he's going after fishing villages and she's going after Winterfell. And then all of a sudden he drops the bomb that, it's not like he was taken and he didn't choose to go, you gave me away. And then all of a sudden, as the audience, you're kind of like, hey, yeah, what the fuck? Why are you looking down at Theon like this?
It's like Theon's a prick, but he has a point.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden you're on his side.
To Balon, his dad is such a douchebag.
Oh my god,
he's almost insufferable. Yeah, because Theon, I think one of his lines is even like, "You threw me away like a dog," basically.
Yeah,
his last boy
is what Theon said. Yeah, your last boy.
Yeah, it'd be awful to do that to any of your kids, but especially his last, what's supposed to be his heir.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be more important to you than anything in this. That's your continuation of your name.
And he gets backhanded for it. And then, to his credit, he just keeps spewing it. Yeah. And then I guess to Balon's credit, he kind of stands there and takes it until Theon's done, and then he leaves. But still, fuck him.
Yeah. I'm glad you went on that bridge, you son of a bitch.
Right.
Yeah, and then they detailed out the plan where they're going to take the north by, I guess, because Yara is commanding the main fleet, and they're trying to kind of put a stranglehold on the north, right? I think they'd mentioned not going directly for Winterfell because it's too much of a stronghold.
Well, not necessarily, because Yara even has the line of, "I always wanted a castle." I think it was more of, he said that Winterfell may be able to stand against us for a year, but it won't matter because we'll have all the rest of the surrounding areas to raid and pillage and all that. So
yeah, they kind of choke them out. I don't think they had the forces to be, especially because they're built for ship combat. They're not built for as
siege.
For siege warfare as much.
Yeah,
as
they can't really do siege. And what's Winterfell going to do? Even though they can't siege because they don't have an army, it's all in the south. So while their forces are keeping Winterfell locked up for a year until they run out of rations and stuff, they're going to raid and pillage everywhere else, is what I got out of it.
Yep, I did the same. The next scene, they go to King's Landing with Tyrion and Shay. They have a really good line that I wrote down where...
It's supposed to be a compliment.
Yeah, how is being a weakness a compliment? I thought that was a cool moment. Fucking Shay, man. I can't even enjoy her scenes. She was always such a cool character.
Such a bitch.
You can't, the whole time you're just like, I fucking hate you, Shay. You're such a bitch.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't even, I just feel so, I remember the look on Tyrion's face, too, when he finds out. And that's all I can see when I see the two of them together. Which I guess is a credit to both actors. But I'm not looking forward to that again.
Yeah, and to her credit, the Shay actress is fantastic this whole show.
Man,
she's really, really good. Did you have anything else to say with that scene?
No. Let's talk about an awkward, very, very awkward dinner that Game of Thrones is famous for. Dinners and weddings
are not so much fun in Game of Thrones. They go to a dinner between all of the Lannisters, the younger Lannisters. Joffrey isn't there. All the rest of the Lannisters and Sansa, and they have like the most disturbing fucking conversation because, you know, Sansa is clearly still traumatized by this whole thing. And then Cersei couldn't care less to the point to where she's just fucking with her the whole dinner.
Yeah.
Because they have a question that's asked by, I guess is it Tommen?
I'm assuming that's Tommen.
They've changed the kids on the Lannister side.
Uh-huh.
Why they didn't fucking change Rickon, that's for another podcast we've already debated like 10 different times.
Or recast Bran later.
Fucking absolutely.
Why couldn't Bran step out the window?
Fucking Bran. We could do a whole sister ToNight's watch, just like, yeah, Bran's still a son of a bitch.
Pretty much.
Because Tommen asks Cersei, or I forget, it's been a few days since I've seen it now, but basically Cersei's talking about
will Joffrey kill Robb?
Robb dying, another member of Sansa's family potentially dying, and then she just looks back at her just to see her reaction.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking disturbing how if you aren't blood to her, you're not even a thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just Cersei, you could talk all day about what a beast Cersei is, and we know in current episodes how far she will go. So yeah,
and I don't think we know the extent of that yet. I think the worst is probably yet to come.
Probably now that she's on the throne, but yeah, I don't even know it. I did like Tommen's response though to when Cersei said, "Probably, would you like that?" And Tommen said, "No, I don't think so."
Yeah, it was actually good foreshadowing to how he would end up being.
Yeah,
later on once he actually got screen time. I think that's all I had with that scene.
Yeah, that's all I had.
They transition to a scene between Sansa and Shay. Tyrion and Varys have hidden Sansa as hidden Shay as Sansa's handmaiden, and they have this really. It's kind of rough because Sansa is being a giant pain in the ass this whole time, but at the same time you feel for her because she's in this she's a prisoner to the people who killed her dad.
Basically, she's completely trapped. She can't even speak aloud anything because that would be treason. And Shay just happens to be the person around that she just kind of unloads all of her pent-up rage and emotion on.
She's betrothed to the guy who had her dad killed.
And possibly her brother soon. Yeah. And that look on her face, though, when Shay says, "Do you want me to leave?" And she just kind of realizes that she's being a complete and utter cunt to Shay. And then she just brush my hair and just kind of sits there. and averts her eyes.
And it's almost one of those things, too. It's like she's really the only person she can talk to.
Pretty much.
She's the only person she can actually talk to because everything else has to be a directed quote, showing that she's not fucking committing treason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Sansa she's a little whiny bitch in season 1, but you completely empathize with her now.
I mean, take a moment to think about what her situation is. So like you said, she had to watch her future husband have her father's head chopped off. He's probably, in all likeliness, as far as she knows at this point, going to do the same to her brother, and then she has to give him children.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that for an instant.
Yeah, it's a rough, I guess the entire show is just awful for Sansa.
Yeah.
Up until the last, 2 episodes? So 58 episodes of It Sucks to Be Sansa. That's the name of the show. It Sucks to Be Sansa.
And then, what's ironic about all this, though, is she's got everything she wanted. Yeah. She wanted to be the queen.
And she was obsessed with Joffrey the entire time until she actually got to look at him.
Yeah, she's gotten everything she ever asked for.
Yep. Yeah, and what's crazy is we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
Nope.
It's weird going back to this show pre-Ramsay. Because Ramsay is such a freaking force in this show that when you go back and Joffrey's there, but for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's more recent, but the Ramsay stuff sticks in my head more than the Joffrey stuff.
Because Joffrey's stuff had some kind of logic to it still. Everything he did was fucking terrible. But everything that he did, you would expect a terrible king to do. Everything he did was shocking, but on the other side, it's well within his power and his right, and there's usually some form of logic to it. Someone's wronged him in some way or something. Ramsay is the fucking devil, dude. He doesn't he's the Joker, basically. He doesn't have to have any rhyme or reason to what he does. He does it for the pleasure of it.
He just does as Ramsay does.
Yeah.
The next scene, one of my all-time favorite things of the entire show is this whole Tyrion subplot. The scene opens up with Tyrion and Pycelle, and this is his ploy. He says 3 different things, and he waits to hear which thing comes back to him. And I believe this is also when he's talking to Pycelle, the first mention of the Martells. Or if it's not the very first one, it's one of the first, because this is the one that actually gets back to him eventually is the Martells' marriage, where he's actually talking about marrying off Marcella to them. How cool is the cinematography? I love how he goes to get a drink. Yeah. And then it cuts back to Varys actually having the same conversation with them. It's shot beautifully.
Yeah, no, they did all 3 that way. It was really, really well done.
Then the second sequence, they cut mid-sentence, basically, to the Tyrion and Varys conversation. I wrote down the first quote from Varys because it's one of my favorites. It says, "Ooh, the queen mustn't know. I love conversations that begin this way."
Oh, Varys. This episode really, especially in their scene together later, is kind of the beginning of their bromance.
Fucking love the Varys and Tyrion bromance so much. And then they cut to Littlefinger. There's a whole lot of foreshadowing in the first section with Pycelle and then the later section with Littlefinger, because he kind of talks about the groundwork that would eventually become Littlefinger and the Knights of the Vale, because there's a whole lot of talk, because his suggestion to Littlefinger is that they marry Marcella to Robin. Yeah. So they start showing you that Littlefinger, has a connection with Lysa and Robin.
I felt kind of bad for Littlefinger, though. He had the most promised to him, and it was stuff that pretty much anyone should want in that deal.
Yeah, he was promised Harrenhal. He was promised, I think it was like Lord of the Riverlands or something like that.
Lord of the Riverlands. If he doesn't like Harrenhal, he'll be able to afford to tear it down and rebuild it.
Yeah, I love when he comes back in. He's just like, next time, don't count me in with your next deception. He's just like, oh, pity, you're going to be the center of my next deception.
And then his face goes from anger to intrigue. Tyrion knows how to play everybody like a fiddle, man. Just like Littlefinger.
I love the dynamic of how Littlefinger and Varys and Pycelle are used to Ned, who, God bless him, had no fucking clue what was going on with anybody. And then in walks Tyrion. Tyrion fucking owns the whole small council. Geno Slint is on his way to the goddamn Night's Watch after he's been there like a week.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
And Littlefinger even was talking about how, yeah, but you promised Harrenhal to Janos, and look how that turned out for him. And he was going on about that. Like, he put up the biggest argument out of the three.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Gold.
Oh, that whole scene's amazing.
One of the best subplots they ever did.
And not just the humor in it either, but the genius in how all three decisions he had made sense to a point. The cinematography in it, the editing in it, like, everything about that scene was just genius.
Fucking gold. Absolute gold. The next scene they transition to is between Renly and Loras. This is where they've already shown them together before, but this really shows you the extent to how disturbing this whole relationship they have going is. Because Loras leaves because he's pissed off about him making Brienne a member of the Kingsguard and embarrassing him even more. But then when Marjorie comes in later, and then she shows that she knows what's going on because she's like, oh, I can go get my brother if you need him to get you started. You're just like, God.
One of my absolute most memorable moments, anytime I think of Renly, I think of Marjorie saying, should I go get my brother? Like, I don't know why, but every time I've seen him leading up to this point, every time he popped on screen, that's what I think of. But
it's also showing too, foreshadowing for what eventually becomes of Marjorie and Joffrey, because Marjorie doesn't care as long
it's a power play.
As long as she gets children and gets a title out of it. Yeah, that's all she cares about.
Yeah, it's a power play for her through and through.
Yeah, she does not care. I'm just still, man, their death in the last episode, the newest episode, really got to me because I was not expecting Marjorie to go when she did.
I was not either. Which props to the Renly actor acting so disinterested in a naked Natalie Dormer.
That should have gotten him a goddamn Emmy right there.
He must actually be gay. That's what I've gotten from this scene.
That's some fucking method acting for you. They should have made Dinklage share the Emmy with him right then and there just because of that scene. Did you have anything else to add with that scene?
Nope, I don't have anything else written down.
All right, now we will go to a scene between Cersei and Tyrion. This shows that the ploy works because Tyrion goes in to speak with her. She just attacks him, like, you can't go and sell my child. He's just like, oh, where is she being sold to exactly?
And the look on his face when she says something about Dorne, it's just kind of like, Pycelle. Like, in the back of his mind. You can see it on his face, but yet he stays in the moment at the same time. It was great.
Here's a question that I was thinking of when this happened. Have we ever, in the later seasons, had a scene where Tyrion finds out what happens to Myrcella? Because he indirectly got her into the position that got her killed. I can't think of a scene where he's learned that yet, has he?
I don't think he has.
Because when you think about it, because that's really the only reason she ends up going there is because Tyrion had to stick with his word about what got back to Cersei, right?
Right.
So he accidentally ended up getting her killed, kind of.
Could you imagine if she had ended up having to marry Theon? Did you imagine Cersei's rage then?
Yeah. Yeah. Cersei's usually, not the most pleasant person to speak to, so even when she's not pissed off, now it's going to be even fucking worse. Yeah, dude, we were talking about all the terrible shit Cersei's done so far. Cersei has fucking nothing to lose now at all.
Yeah, I know.
But at all. I'm terrified to watch these next 7 episodes. I think it's going to get fucking ridiculous.
It's going to be nuts, and I'm going to love it.
Let's see.
I love Lena Headey.
I will say their scene together between Lena Headey and Dinklage was really, really well done, because like when she shoves him, like the way that they filmed it, it was actually like painful to her.
Yeah.
That she was losing her daughter. She was really, really great in that scene.
And at the same time, though, I mean, you can argue Tyrion's point all day. Where is she going to be safest if they're coming to, pillage King's Landing?
Yeah, they'll put her head on a pike next to yours, and he's not wrong, because the siege is ridiculous. I can't wait for that goddamn Blackwater Bay, dude. Let's just skip to Blackwater Bay. Fuck the rest of the season. Let's see. Next up is...
No, we can't skip, because one of my favorite lines from Tyrion's in the next episode.
Okay, we'll get to that, and then we're skipping. So the next scene is a scene with Theon by himself.
God damn it, Theon! That's my actual note that I have written down.
He's writing out in the dark the note to Robb, warning him, and he's writing it right next to a single candle, and then he sets it ablaze. And the shot of him after he's lit it and the only light is coming from the fire and from the candle is a really, really beautiful shot too, because it's almost like it's symbolic of him kind of succumbing to the darkness. He at that point, up until here, he's always been the person to come out and say, I'm with the Starks, because even in the previous scene with Balon, he is trying to be diplomatic about it. He's begging Balon, don't do this.
And you got to wonder, basically, this is all because of Yara and Balon. Like, had he been accepted, would this still be the same outcome, even if they didn't approve his plan? Would he have sent the letter if they hadn't pushed him the way that they did?
Man, all the parallels that are throughout the show between Theon and Ramsay have always really fascinated me. I've always thought it was a cool
We're getting dynamic.
There. Do what?
I said we're getting there.
And then Theon goes and gets the... I don't even know what I wrote down he goes and gets the baptism. Basically, it's him being inducted.
And my note for that was they should have drowned him.
Wow. So yeah, you just get baptized if you're joining them, but if you're trying to be the king, they just straight up drown your ass. I like that little slight change. We go back to Tyrion.
Oh, yes.
Let's see.
He is such a dick in this scene, and it's amazing.
I'll let you describe the scene. I didn't write down a whole lot of notes, and I haven't seen it in a few days, so why don't you take it away?
So they literally kick the door down. But just before that, actually, a note that I have written down was when he's still talking to Littlefinger, Bronn comes in and says that he's found him, and he's basically with another prostitute. And he's
so we jumped ahead. This is actually when he has that conversation with Littlefinger. Is that right? Okay.
And Bronn says, I almost hate to interrupt him. And Tyrion's like, no, you don't. And he's like, no, I don't. And then literally, it shows from inside Pycelle's room, the door just fly off the hinges. And, the girl ducks down in the corner, and then the dude and Bronn kind of grab Pycelle, and Tyrion just walks in like a goddamn mob enforcer and sits down in Pycelle's chair and just starts playing with his stuff while talking to him. And he has some kind of cutter. It reminds me of like a cigar cutter and stuff. And as he's talking to him, he's sitting there looking through him, like doing that. And then he tells the dude to cut off his manhood.
And feed it to the goats.
He's like, we don't have any goats. And then he's like...
Well, make do. His fucking line delivery was just genius.
I don't like his beard. And that the next episode, I think, has the... I was going to say we didn't harm a hair on his head, but...
Really quickly, I did wanted to mention though in the last scene where we skipped over a little bit with him Littlefinger conversation between Tyrion and Littlefinger, they do establish that Tyrion is going to go through with a plan to use Cat to get Jaime back, which ends up leading Brienne and Jaime on the road.
Right.
But yeah, I really like the way they end the scene too, where Tyrion walks up, puts the coin down.
Yes.
To the prostitute
for your trouble.
Walks away, and then goes and puts one more coin back.
He looks at Pycelle and he's just kind of, and then he goes and puts another coin on, gives her a look, and she nods yes.
I've forgotten just how awesome all of the Tyrion Hand of the King stuff was in this season. Like, it is really one of the best subplots they've ever done. It's all of it is all awesome.
I love it.
Man, like you call it, like he really just does walk in like a goddamn mob enforcer, just like he owns the room.
He really it's like Travolta in a mafia movie or something, like Pulp Fiction or something. Definitely. He just walks in the room like he owns the place.
Now they go to the next scene with Varys and Tyrion, and they have some really, really good back and forth. Again, this whole scene could be quoted just because
This is the scene that, to me, is the beginning of their bromance.
I like the quote by Varys, like, the small council grows smaller every day. And then they have this really, really cool bit of dialogue where Varys...
I've decided I don't like riddles much.
Yeah, he poses this great riddle, who holds the power in the room.
I actually liked Tyrion's answer to that, too. He said the sellsword does because he has the sword. He has the power of life and death.
And then he goes to tell... He brings up, who was responsible for Eddard Stark's death. Was it Joffrey? Was it the executioner? Was it something else? And he's like... He tells them power resides where men believe it resides.
Yeah. And that the smallest men can cast the largest shadow.
I just want to start the next episode now because I fucking love all the Tyrion stuff so much.
We got to get to one of our least favorite and most favorite parts first.
Oh, man. I'm not looking forward to talking about this because it makes me sad.
Oh, man.
So they transition to what ends up being the last segment of the episode. It is Arya with the rest of the recruits of the Night's Watch. She can't sleep. Is she sharpening her sword? Is that what she's doing?
I think she's oiling the blade.
Okay. And then Yoren walks in and has a conversation with her. And I remembered this scene and what becomes of it, but I'd actually forgotten about all of the important foreshadowing for Arya in this scene.
Yes. Because this is the beginning of the list.
Yes, beginning of the list. I forgot it was actually Yoren that had led the list.
I forgot about that too.
What was that?
I forgot about that too.
That he led to the list?
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. Yeah, him remembering the killer of his brother, but not the way his actual brother looked, is brilliant foreshadowing for her. Because she is so fixated on revenge that she cares more about her revenge than her family. Because we actually talked about this in tonight's watch for the newest season. When they have the big twist, that she is the person in disguise to kill Walder Frey, her family's in the middle of a fucking war zone right now. And instead of going to help them or seeking them out, she goes balls to the wall revenge.
Yep.
Which you can't blame her, but it really goes to show you how much of an impact and like how much parallel there is between Yoren and Arya. I just thought it was fucking genius because I had, like you said, I had totally forgotten she got the list of the names from him. I thought it was genius the way it ended up being.
I also like the story that he tells her. When he said that Willem comes back into town and he buries an axe so deep into his skull that they had to bury him with it. And he's like, that'll help you sleep, I suppose.
And then he said, yeah, I rode Willem's horse all the way to the Night's Watch.
Yeah, and I've been wearing black ever since.
Such a great fucking character.
I know. So let's get to it.
Yeah. And then they get attacked by all the douchebag Kingsguard. And... You want to talk about having an epic way to go?
I think he yells, wake up, arm yourselves, there's men out there that want to fuck your corpses, is what he yells.
He's so fucking awesome, dude. Yeah, he runs out to meet the Kingsguard, But you want to talk about if you have to go out? What a badass way to go out!
You know what it reminded me of, and I think it might even top a little bit, is Sean Bean's redemption scene in Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. That he's said before that's one of his favorite deaths that he's done out of the many deaths that Sean Bean's had. But I mean, he goes out like a complete badass, and I think this might even top that.
I would agree.
Because that one was all about redemption. This one was just straight up badassery.
Because the Sean Bean thing is, like you said, it's about redemption. Yoren doesn't have to be doing this.
No, not at all.
At all. He hasn't had to do it at all, but he has an honor code to him. He knows what they're doing is fucked up, and they're trying to kill they're trying to. Does he even really know that much about what's going on? Honestly, other than
he knows who Gendry is, and he knows who Arya is, and
he's protecting Arya.
He's protecting Arya for Ned. But he knows who Gendry is because he tells the two of them to stay put, and if it goes south, for them to go north, basically.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, he begins that fucking fight just taking a crossbow bolt to the shoulder.
And then the line you and I both wrote down was, "I always hated crossbows. They take too long to load." And he just slices the guy that shot him.
Straight through the fucking neck, dude. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, man.
But yeah, he's taken on 3 or 4 dudes through that whole fight after being shot multiple times.
He gets shot multiple times. I think I counted 3 times he gets skewered with spears. And then he's basically being held in place by 2 of the spears.
And still fighting.
Still trying to fight when the sword goes down his spine.
That death is one of the ones that actually get me, or I get uneasy watching it, because they have a signature disturbing ass sound effect. But the thing that's haunting about it to me is how he just slumps and stays there for a few minutes until they go back to knock him over.
Yeah.
The way he's just slumped is really disturbing imagery.
Yeah. Very well done, though.
Yeah.
I always hated crossbows that take too long to load. And they get a really good shot of the guy struggling to load it really fast as he's coming for him.
Yeah. It's fucking metal.
Dude, and that crossbow bolt to the shoulder also, it looks like it just pissed him off.
Yeah, right.
More than anything.
Yoren's such a boss. So after Gendry and Arya see that Yoren's been killed, they bolt. And the other members of the Night's Watch recruits, one of them accidentally sets a fire to the ground around Jaqen's cage that's on the back of the wagon.
Yes.
I thought it was really interesting when you think about it. It's mercy that sets Arya on the path to killing.
To being merciless.
Her going out of her way to save them in the cage sets Jaqen sets her on the path to becoming an assassin.
Yeah.
It's a cool little bit of irony in the show. And then they get captured, and then the next episode is going to be them in Harrenhal.
I like the moment too that after they kill that one dick that just wanted to hand Gendry over in previous episode, after they kill him with Needle, they wanted to know who Gendry was, and Arya says, "You already got him. He really liked that helmet." And that guy had Gendry's helmet, and they had just killed him. So
the death of that kid is disturbing too, because he just casually picks him up and then just skewers him.
It's exactly what Arya does later. Because that one has always disturbed me. The sound effect.
Does she do that to that guy?
I think it's that same guy. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that she definitely does that same thing.
Yes, with the Hound with her.
Yes, and
lots of people name their swords.
Lots of cunts.
Lots of cunts. If it was socially acceptable, I would wear that on a fucking t-shirt every day of the week.
I'm sure it is a shirt too. That's what's fun.
Yeah.
No, I cannot wait to get back to more Hound stuff,
dude. All the whole subplot between Arya and the Hound is one of my other favorite subplots they've ever done. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much a wrap for the episode. Is there anything you think we missed? Anything else you want to touch on?
I'm sure there's plenty that we missed, but
yeah,
as always.
As always, I feel like we got most of the important stuff. Yeah, if you would like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. We do, in addition to our Game of Thrones stuff, we also do Let's Plays and a weekly news podcast for movies, TV, and gaming. I say gaming, but there's usually not jack to talk about for gaming, at least with us, because we don't fucking play games. We have social media links for Facebook and Twitter in the description if you're interested in those. And most importantly, no. I had one job and I failed. I'll cop to it.
Before you sign us completely out, I do want to say that, as to my knowledge, we are back on schedule with this show. So, what's been going on is basically my wife was in the hospital for a week, and then after that, she's been on bed rest, and I've been taking care of everything and all that. So, but she's out. Today, October 20th, was the date we set for her to be induced if the babies don't come on their own before then. So, but to my knowledge, we should be back on schedule with this show.
Okay, and then I will post on the Twitter when we have to go on hiatus for the Huddleston party of two to arrive. And the most importantly, if you know anyone else that would like to check out our content, we would really, really appreciate a share. For this night and all the nights to come, I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron, and this watch has ended.